Do you miss DVD commentary tracks? Well, fear not, because I've on Pride, the most scorned critic in all of YouTube. I'm here to give you commentary tracks for the movies we love and sometimes those we love to hate. Tonight, I got one I think most people like more than I do. From 1994, Street Fighter II. That would be the anime feature-length motion picture, yeah. Starring, well, really one recognizable voice, and that is the guy from Breaking Bad. But before we get into it, I want to give a quick mention to my buddies over at CalderaLab.com, makers of The Good. This serum may or may not heal claw marks inflicted by a Spanish dude. But if you want to give The Good or their other fine products a try, use my promo code FRY15 to save 15% at checkout. All right, I've got my popcorn with the pink Himalayan salt, the Reese's Pieces, the butter, all that good stuff, and I've got an IBC root beer. I know some of you didn't want me having popcorn. Too bad. I know, well, it's so distracting. Look, I've gotten a bad habit here. It's like a drug addiction where I can't watch stuff without eating popcorn. I'm just sorry. But we're about to start Street Fighter II, the animated movie, however, where you're watching it may call it, and we're going to queue up to 0000 and hit play now. Okay, look, I'm watching a bit of a different version than you guys. I'm actually watching the 4K disc from Discotheque Media. Yeah, I have not watched this yet, and I'm actually on a very unique version to this disc. I'm watching with English, but the original score. So I have the J-pop, whereas you guys, if you're watching this with me on Prime Video, I'm going to have one extra shot in the movie than you do. I'm not certain if the dialogue is much different. We'll find out when Guile gets cursing, but I can't turn subtitles on. That's the weird part, because I'm actually watching a track on here that is in English with the original music. And I feel like Discotheque Media, they did not really address the version that is currently streaming right now, which is HD, but the American dialogue, not the UK that drops F-bombs to get the 15 rating. So that you know it's a mature disc over there, mature anime, right? But you guys get the rock music, and you get no butt shot of Chun-Li. This is a movie that my friend circle and I were not really aware of back in the day. I'll tell you that. I think that we knew USA was running a not great cartoon. They had a number, I think it was USA that was doing the game cartoons. They had Earthworm Jim, but they also had Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And we didn't really think too highly of any of that. Well, actually, Earthworm Jim might have been an exception. And this, I was hearing about, there was actually an anime, and it turned out that was Street Fighter V. Before there was a Street Fighter V with Roman numerals, there was a Street Fighter V anime series, and from like 96. And it's not really a continuation of the storyline by any means. But wanted to kind of ride the success. Hey, maybe we can do some animation with Street Fighter. This movie came out in Japan. I believe it was released theatrically in, I think, August of 94. And then I think in early 95 comes to America VHS. This, of course, after, I think it was a December release of Van Damme's Street Fighter movie. Look how massive Sagat is. Yeah, Sagat's looking all of 8 feet tall. We're playing a little fast and loose with the size here. I think Sagat's actually about 7'4", like Wemby size. Like, he's big. I think that T-Hawk is bigger. And they've gone to some lengths here to get this movie current with the Street Fighter that you were playing in the arcade. It doesn't just have Super Street Fighter 2 characters. It has Street Fighter 2 Were they calling it Street Fighter 2X or Super Street Fighter 2X? Here it's Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, usually called Super Turbo, because there is an Akuma cameo. I'm not honestly sure if I've seen this version with all the blood in it, because it gets pretty violent in places. You saw a lot of blood there. I think some of those shots, US PG-13 US PG-13 may have been the first way I watched this, because you started to hear things about like the fabled Chun-Li scene. Now I'm hearing some kind of like synth drums here. I can't watch this with subtitles, unfortunate. So I gotta try to keep up with this. I think you guys are getting rock music, and you get some notable band like music just kind of like subbed in. Look at this. Now, is Ryu able to do the Hadouken because he's like gathering the lightning? Also, how far away did he knock him over here? Because this is quite the sprint. This is a tall guy clearing several NBA basketball courts here so that Ryu can build up this Hadouken. Which in this seems to be lightning associated, right? Here we go. Street Fighter 2 movie. Yeah, that's the Japanese title card right there. I would have to double check what you have on Prime Video, because a lot of times it's Tubi has it. Heck, I can't even turn on the subtitles for the signs. Thankfully, that one's in Drug-Free Society, Keep Children. It's almost like Dare. That sign is actually in English. The fighting in this, it's almost like it's handled by a different team. I think Madhouse is involved in this animation, but the fighting is really quite good. Yeah, like they get the action going here. Cammy doing her thing. A lot of you know, you've seen that graphic of me with the coat on that's derived from Cammy's look here. She's just pulling off her like level 2 secret art or super art or whatever. I think it's a super art on current Street Fighter 6. It's not her max level, where she goes locked on, and then does it. Chun-Li, not really dressed like she's in Interpol, but okay. Ma'am, what are you doing with these giant bracelets? Cammy White, employment, MI6, really? I thought it was Delta Red. Despite being someone who plays a lot of Cammy, I really don't know everything about her. She is a clone of Bison. Then why does she look the way she does? Is she not actually English? She was just dropped off at Delta Red, escaped, and then they assumed English. Sagat, wow. He recently turned 69 years old. Look at that. It says M. Bison there. Balrog. On the American version, okay, they're talking about... There are so many different tracks here. I think that I've got the English names, but the text on screen is showing the Japanese names, because it mentioned Balrog as what we call Vega. So as much as they're going to be talking about Bison, we have to stop Bison. Are they going to say Vega if you have the Japanese names? This disc has quite a few features, but one it doesn't have a standard Blu-ray for a Blu-ray player. And it also doesn't have the digital, which is always good for getting clips for reviews and whatever. They let a full bird kernel fly. Oh, he's a captain here. Okay. Brushhead. Yeah, that's what his hair looks like. I have some disdain for Guile mains. I mean, Guile mains cannot walk forward for the life of them. All they do is turtle in the corner and wait for you to jump in, so they hit you with the flash kick. Very good, intricate work on the backgrounds. Is it feasible for a giant Buddha? Is that a Buddha statue? A giant statue face to open like this? Is it feasible? And could you not just leave the door open for your plane at all times? Who do you hire to make the logo on the ground for your like secret Shadowloo organization? You know, I think in Bison, his plot here, he has to study all the Street Fighters to like analyze their techniques and build like super soldiers, something like that, right? Not really a plot that you are concerned with in the original Street Fighter from '87. So most of the story for Street Fighter kind of kicks off with Street Fighter 2. And where it gets convoluted from there, I'm not really sure, because they give all these characters actual birth dates. And then they kind of go, oh, Chun-Li, she's not turning 50. She's 27 or something like that. Classic M. Bison look over here. Now, I don't believe that even if you're paying for the premium on Prime Video, I don't think you get the HDR like I've got here. Most everybody's in their classic look, or well, everybody's got the military fatigue pants anyway, or whereas they usually don't. Like Sagat, Balrog, I'm going to be referring to them in their American names. Now, actually, I think it's possible that because I'm watching English with original music, I'm actually watching a longer cut than you guys are getting, not just by the 1 second with the butt shot, but like these lingering shots of we need to play the music, we need to get M. Bison walk over here. The pacing is quite a bit slower for the Japanese version. I think that's what I'm working with here. Not so sure this little doctor guy even shows up in other Street Fighter stuff. Man, does Ryu not have a last name? Potential fighting capacity 3620. What is out of what? Now, I suppose in theory, the beginning of this movie, in some ways, is showing a stylized retelling of the end of the first game, where Sagat gets the scar. We will actually see, this is released in 94. Street Fighter Alpha designs of Ryu and Ken, which doesn't come out till 95. So the anime gives you a sneak peek of some of the stuff the franchise had planning. No, I do not recognize this music here. Though I could be wrong. I think almost every song is actually replaced in the American versions. Not just the American PG-13, but the American uncut. Yep, you hit that dragon punch. Here we go. Street Fighter Alpha. Do you see how advanced the fighting segments look compared to let's stand around and kind of talk and look at the landscape? Yeah, I don't think this is assisted with CGI models or anything, but it looks really good. Are we about to meet Shin Long? I believe Shin Long is somewhat incorporated into Street Fighter 6 as like a super high level guy you run across in World Tour. Ken Masters. Ryu is so ultimately stoic. I can kind of understand why, despite being the lead Street Fighter, really has a small role in the American 94 live action film. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about here. I don't have access to what this says. Did it say Tokyo or I don't recall? I guess outside America. I don't know. We're going to meet Ken. Ken actually has a wife. I guess that it said Mari. Is it Marie Claire? Or we? There might be some slightly off brand names in this. Remember, she makes an appearance in his endings. Runs up to kiss him. All right, now is this Hong Kong? Because we've got like a. I think, yeah, there's Fei Long, the Bruce Lee. There was talk that Bruce Lee's family, and this may be totally rumored, obviously really upset about Tarantino's use of his name, image, likeness in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, has now forbidden him from participating in future Street Fighter stuff. Like the character's essentially been retired, and with the next wave of characters beyond year one announced, and we have no Fei Long. This is all really just kind of brought up by the guy who did the score for his theme in like Street Fighter V, and said he'll miss not being able to do another Fei Long theme. And then the word was, oh, that's bull. That's not confirmed. Well, it sure feels like it, doesn't it? Because you aren't going to have any Fei Long through 2025 in Street Fighter 6. You may not recognize the voice of Fei Long, but that's Bryan Cranston. This he was already the dentist in Seinfeld at this point. Yeah, you could almost just call this guy Bruce Lee. Look, he's pre-fight, makes the noises. Does Bryan Cranston get canceled for yellow voicing? Is that a possibility? Now, Fei Long is allowed to lose because it isn't actually Bruce Lee, right? By the way, I was never any good with Fei Long. Never really found any real use for his moves, but I'm only like a mid at best Street Fighter player, and that would be in any of the games, honestly. I mean, I've done decent. Well, actually, okay. Whatever they called the 3DS version, I was actually pretty badass at. And I've also done pretty good at HD Remix. But that's a game that is not... It's kind of like delisted. I don't think you can find anybody to play the 3DS version. And I don't think 3DS has online support anymore. Call it quits, buddy. Don't those little shoes look like they'd be painful to, I don't know, wear at all, let alone fight in? I never really understood his kick thing. Now, he had some cool punch move that you kind of muscled in on guys, closed the gap, I think. Nope. He hit them with the Tatsumaki Spinuken. None of this stuff was ever easy to pronounce. My circle of friends, we called him Ryu instead of Ryu. It is Ryu, right? We call him Ryu. This is what it was like winning fights back in the 90s, man. You beat a guy up in the 90s, he wants to be your buddy. Now it's Shadow Lu, right? But they say Shadow Law. It's not Shadow Law, right? Was I wrong all this time? There is actually street fighting in your Street Fighter movie. Not so much in, well, most any other Street Fighter movie. With the Legend of Chun-Li being what was that? Was it 2010 or 2009 or something? Ways off. Kind of seems like we're due to give Street Fighter another shot, aren't we? Like every 15 years, we got to give it a go. Got a rather inconsequential cyborg here. Eyeing that 911 cabriolet that Ken drives. T-Hawk. T-Hawk, I don't think he's particularly popular. He's not in Street Fighter 6, but he has like a fellow tribesman girl in there who has some inspired moves of his. runs in his clan or something like that. T-Hawk ultimately would not be the biggest of the Street Fighter foes. In his name Andor from Final Fight, he's massive, like 8 feet tall. Oh, come on, are you gonna really throw a fireball without the lightning storm? Finish it, man. This is some deep talk, man. Not a kids movie, right? It was hard to find out about anime movies back. Stuff would come up in magazines, and that was really about it. Magazines and word of mouth. You know, maybe if you peruse the video store, not necessarily Blockbuster, you may have to go to other video stores to really get the anime selection. All right, now I think we're in India because we're going to see Dulcim. Am I saying that wrong? Also, this is the first movie I think I've done a commentary for that has a scene after the credits, so it might actually be a longer video than there is movie. Usually I try to make it timed to, oh, hey, it's the exact length of the actual movie. Except YouTube adds a second. There we go, Akuma. Or in Japan, Goki, I believe. What is he doing? Is he like begging and people are giving him fruit, or is he selling fruit? From the floor. On the ground. Now, I think Ryu is a bit of a marked man here. Everybody's after him. Just likes to walk barefoot with his bag. Is it a knapsack? What are we calling it? Don't cry over spilled milk. Yep, we know it's spilled. Is there some justification in the American edit for this? Taking out a considerable amount of dead air and things that you've more easily inferred? She doesn't understand a word coming out of her mouth, Ryu. By the way, as jacked as Ryu looks here, man alive, he is not nearly as jacked as he gets. Because with each Street Fighter, they just double down on the muscles. Actually, they may have cut some back. In Ryu's case, maybe not. But I think Street Fighter V Chun-Li is overboard. And they might have reined that back a little. Though they do mention her having some big legs in Street Fighter 6. Dulcim versus E Honda. pretty faithful with the moves. You can do this animated to a better effect than you could live action. And if you did this live action, these Dulcine moves, I mean, come on, or even the 100 hand slap, would that just not induce groans in the 90s? Or even today, would it seem like something that won't age well? Oh, there's our cyborg. He's studying the moves. The flabby pectoral muscles. Are we just making stuff up there? Audition? Come on. Dulcine in the games was not a particularly jacked guy at this time. It's also worth pointing out, we'll see everybody's essentially classic outfit here. The games have added like a level of derelict from Zoolander to like all the males. All the males have become homeless. Ryu looks particularly homeless. E Honda looks like he's on vacation. Dulcine looks homeless. He did kind of from the start. Ken is like in story on the lam. Bison, resurrected, looks homeless. Akuma, homeless. I'm sure they'll have a special homeless version of Sagat coming. Like all the guys, they have to get huge beards. They all grow a comedy beard. And then you have to earn, or they would rather you buy their classic outfit. Shockingly, I spent like $110 on that game. And I don't have all the costumes. Or all the characters now. I don't have Bison. Sounds criminal to me. But Vaughn, you knew what was available when you bought... No, it was pretty vague about what costumes would unlock for buying the Ultimate Edition. I don't think any game should be packaged as the Ultimate Edition when it is indeed not Ultimate. I don't believe that this is a named character, this guy. He's coming to intervene. Oh, she does speak English. I forgot. What, do you give you too much money? Ah, the girl falls down again? Yeah, this guy's getting shot up horrifically. Like, that is some 80s anime violent stuff right there. I don't even know what the whole point was. He's running back to this car. Was the guy supposed to beat up Ryu or tackle him and take him to this car? But then they're like, no, now you're being shot at. We're going to abort the mission. Like, what are we doing? Shadow Law, huh? Yeah, a guy ran into her. Does she need to go to the ambulance? Can she possibly afford that health care? This jovial, kind of goofy E Honda does kind of rear its head in the later games. I didn't feel like he had a personality so much in Street Fighter 2, but he does seem like this in Street Fighter 6. Ah, yes, Bison always has to have some guys walk with him. It's not enough for me to get a call from you from this seat. I got to go walk to this other one, and then we'll talk. I guess lung kappa is lung capacity. Ah, yes. If only we knew that there were so many Shoto fighters in Street Fighter. I mean, hell, if you want to build some super soldiers, did you not see that guy vending the oranges from the pavement? Ken weighs 10 pounds more. I think Ken is actually typically listed nowadays as an inch taller. By the time you get to Super Street Fighter 2, there are differences between Ken and Ryu. I'm not sure about Super Street Fighter 2, but all previous, it's really the same thing. Was the thinking that Shadow Law sounds cooler? Like, I don't know, nobody get behind the Shadow Lu. It is SHADL or SHADOWLOO, right? Shadow Lu. Now this could be CGI assisted right here. This hallway walk. It is, I think, implied that they have Cammy assassinated, but it never really comes to fruition. Like, you don't see it. It seems like a lot of the plot, and look, as a Street Fighter license, I guess this is fine. There is just a lot of excuses for fight scene, and it's got to be two different characters than we've seen fighting before. Like, we just got to kind of bounce between fight scenes, and how can we best do that? It is kind of nice that we have Chun-Li and Guile working somewhat together against Bison, but at the same time, we do feel like Ryu is the main character. But at this, Guile and Chun-Li, they have plenty to do on their own. Ah, we're mentioning Charlie there. Man enough to check out her other ability. Oh, we'll be checking that out. Because she is, like, unbelievably built. It's a race. Who gets to beat Bison? Everybody's got a grudge. Some kind of vengeance. Now, one of the things I like about the older animes, they didn't cut to the goofy faces. And I mean by the anime films, that is. It was too often you saw the weird goofy faces, the big expressions with the background changing and the goofy tone in anime shows. And that still frequently happens now. But the 80s and 90s anime movies, by and large, the events that took place were diegetic. You didn't have a lot of weird cutaway gags. For the heck of it, let's go check in with DJ, who looks really damn tall. Oh, he's got very high lung capacity. And I could never really get anything done with DJ, but a lot of people like him in Street Fighter 6. He has a lot of moves that I guess they cancel well. He feints attacks and can keep you guessing. Sounds vaguely Jamaican. My undercover outfit says Jesus. Who, me? No, I'm going to walk away. Oop. Man, I love the way lightning, like plasma effects worked in older animation. Blasts, lasers, electricity. For as jacked and scary looking as these things are, they pose a little threat. Is Chun-Li really 5'8"? All right, you're scanning her. All right, so Vega is made out to be a rapist. A rapist and or serial killer. I guess that's Chun-Li's father who we're seeing die in this unfortunate accident, right? Man, look how casino. Oh man, text. Text is something they could have cleaned up a little bit back then. Hand drawing that text. Obviously, Playboy Club style bunny outfit here. Oh, so much of this not flying today. Did I just hear this is my partner, Mr. Beast? Vegas, of course, the stomping grounds of Balrog. I mean, I guess at this point we hadn't really figured out how to show a street fight, so it's almost like they're in this circus arena rather than an octagon or a boxing rink. Zangief, whom we pronounced Zangief back in the day before we heard any different. Blanca actually looking better here than he does now. Now he's such a goof. And then we also have like this connection of Blanca may actually be Guile's buddy Charlie, but not, because like even in his ending in Street Fighter 2, I think it was Street Fighter 2, or maybe it was Super Turbo. It's like his mom finds him and, oh yeah, I lost you in the Amazon or something like that, right? All right, Balrog just got really turned on by these moves. Well, things don't look too good for Blanca. The biting, the roll. We gotta do some electricity here, right? Here we go. How sweet does that look? Oh geez, here it comes. Chun-Li in the shower. This is what part of why I don't like this movie. Honestly, it's so disrespectful to Chun-Li. Oh, it's fan service. There's a point to be made that it's harmless. It's not your mom naked, right? It's a drawing. I think that's disrespectful to the character. Like, this is the first female character available in a fighting game. A one-on-one fighting game. And that was the butt shot that I don't believe is in your version on Prime Video. Or probably massively out of sync because this has much more lingering shots. Look at it this way. Why would Capcom sign off to doing this to Chun-Li? Nintendo would not do the same with Samus, right? Or Princess Peach Toadstool. Yeah, she needs to get in the shower and we'll have a rapist come after her. All right, now here's the shot that is in your version. Because they don't show the PG-13 original American version here. Oh, there it is. And yeah, you can tell somebody really enjoyed animating that. POV type shot here. Yes, of course. We'll have an old dial phone here, right? You got a car phone in your 60s Mustang, Guile? Okay. Car phones were a thing in mid-90s time, but I'm not really sure how they work, to be real with you. Obviously, you'd have to pay for a service. I don't think this is the same music. I think it was a much lighter music in the American version. Even on the same, like almost sensual. Whereas here it's like foreboding, suspenseful. She's got a hi-fi system there with tube amps even. Almost looks like Optimus Prime got in a wreck. I think this is in Japanese. This is not the same music as you're getting for sure. Let's do my hair. I like to get the bun done. At what point does Vega want to intervene? I mean, he's enjoying the show, right? Solo music playing. I mean, this feels serious, doesn't it? Whereas in the American version, it feels more like a light action movie vibe fight, doesn't it? Like this almost seems serious enough that you could think Vega might actually kill Chun-Li here. Someone's got to answer that phone. Come on. Animation really hitting here. Vega being extra creepy. But, I mean, look, Vega is jacked. He can fight. Talks about how great he looks. Couldn't he pull Chun-Li if he was just kind of, I don't know, had a personality at all? We'll give it a shot at least. I don't think you ever get this outfit for Chun-Li in a game. Chun-Li fresh out of the shower. You scarred my face. Though I think that all heals up. She never has any, like, in-canon face slash. Oh, and he gets quite the beating once she realizes she got her face scratched. Yeah, well, join the club, buddy. Guile's like, no time to park correctly. Does Guile have any intel that someone is coming tonight to attack Chun-Li? I mean, he's jumping. I mean, he's on the right track, but the two characters at the time who could jump off the walls. Obviously, this fight alone is better than we get in any other Street Fighter movie. And they do a very good job establishing, like, yeah, I'd almost say the arena, but the geography of the scene here. And everybody gets their special moves in. Fatality. I mean, it's almost assumed, right? I mean, he landed in a street, right? Not like in water. He's not going to go Jason Bourne, is he? What if he had just called while she was in the shower? And he comes barging in. Never attacked. Hey, I was just taking a shower. I couldn't answer the phone. Deal with it. You made these from a humanoid cyborg perspective, impressive creatures, and all they do is watch people fight. Was there not a better way to go about that? Like, you have the technology and the manpower to make the cyborgs, but I don't know. It just kind of seems like you could have done more with that than watch street fights. If you had to watch street fights, you couldn't just get some goons, hire some guys to camcorders. Like that wasn't an option. Now that says 911 turbo and it's a cabriolet. I I don't know everything about those 80s, 70s Porsches, but I don't think that a 911 turbo cabriolet was available at that time. There was like one made in 95 using the 94's engine. So it had like 350 horsepower instead of 400, but it largely looked like a 95. Then in 96, they actually released the turbo model. It looked really cool. And I think 97 had the Turbo S. I don't think 98 had a Turbo S, but 98 was the last of the rear engine air cooled. Oh, they've been rear engine ever since, but the air cooled engine turbos, and all those 993s, they fetch a pretty penny. This is pre 964. Is this? Honestly, I don't think that's an. Is it an 88 turbo cabriolet? I'll have to look and see if that's a thing. And if it was, I don't think they're released in America, but I could be mistaken. I'm going on about Porsches. Young Ryu seems to have a bit more personality than mature Ryu, right? Nice looking house. Now, in my circle of friends, Mortal Kombat was a good deal more popular than Street Fighter. And it's not that we dislike Street Fighter, but it kind of seemed like there was a time and place for both, and we could kind of bounce between them. But we were a little more caught up on Mortal Kombat lore. We really liked that first Mortal Kombat movie. And we were into Mortal Kombat from in 1 and 2. We might have had a dalliance with Mortal Kombat 3. When it came to Street Fighter 2, all we knew about it was Street Fighter 2. And then it just seemed like they keep making more versions. It's like, is there ever going to be a 3? I had moved before there was a 3. I had moved out of Oklahoma before Street Fighter 3 came out. I had a comic book involving Street Fighter. It was like Street Fighter #1. I don't think it was a long running series. I think even by the end, from what I've heard, the end of the short run, they realized they were getting canceled and they just started making stuff up as outlandish as they could. But I thought for sure in that comic book, it was like Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li knew each other from a young age, and Ken had become a movie star. And Chun-Li would talk about how she's the strongest and the most beautiful woman in the world. Oh yeah, I'm sure they can hear you yell, "Are you crazy?" from their attack plane. See, we're going with Bison. Buffalo. Oh, he's using that psycho fist power, huh? Looking quite a bit more powerful here than he does in the games. Having a fight on a plane like this is a little more out of Children of the Atom, isn't it? Like you fight on the Blackbird. Oh, he can do the Hadouken. Is this as impressive as what we've seen from Bison already? We saw a teleport. We've seen... Shoot, he can reflect the Hadouken back at you. Telekinesis seemed very impressive. Been a little bit since we've seen Ryu, right? Shoot, somebody needs to investigate Guile. Like, how do you know everything? Yep, of course he's going after Chimeras. Of course someone's going to attack Chun-Li. All of these monitor cyborgs waiting to observe any fight that may occur. Guile seems to think he is the protagonist, but he kind of just gets to nudge along the actual protagonist. From what I've seen of the Street Fighter 2 V series, and it was an early episode, Ryu and Ken are so goofy. And then they meet Guile and they challenge him and they get their butts kicked. And he's like the top fighter in the American Air Force, and he's stationed in Japan and just beats them up, but kind of respects them for trying or something like that. All right, let's check in with Chun-Li at the hospital. I guess with the last bit of strength she had left in her, she kicked the crap out of Vega, kicked him through a wall, through a brick wall. I wanted to be awake when they killed Bison, right? And yeah, Guile is so much more impossibly jacked here than he was in the games at the time. Chun-Li is built like a pretty woman here. She doesn't have the thighs as thick as my body that she'll end up with in Street Fighter V. Kind of similar with Cammy. Cammy's built to look good. Very much played for the, the male gaze, especially with the fan service. We are brainwashing. We're manipulating Ken, who I think is, he looks rather naked there, but we're giving him the Ken treat. Actually, Ken is getting the Ken treatment. The Barbie Ken treatment there. Just a smooth region. Are they feeding him images or reading his mind? That is quite the chin you got there, Bison. Oh, come on. We're going to do that, what we did at Chun-Li, but we're not going to give you the front for Ken here. Ah, yes, the video effects of the day, the shattered glass, the warping. Ryu doing his free solo thing over here. Cliffhanger was a hit movie, man. You got to climb some rocks. Well, yeah, he climbing upside down like this, no easy task if you're not Spider-Man. I mean, he didn't really come prepared for this climb. And you can see they give each other a good fight, but they don't mean each other real harm. And this seems to be the birth of, hey, where did Ryu get that the headband? Could it have been Ken's, right? Is that canon? Ken had the longer hair, had it in his hair, I think, at the time there. And Ryu in Alpha has a white headband. So he needs to not have any headbands so that Ken can give him his. And since he has, red uniform, it kind of makes sense that, oh, hey, my red headband here, you can have it. And that's why we end up with the red headband on the otherwise white gi. Though it's usually kind of dirty looking gi of Ryu. But I don't really like the way the Alpha designs look. It's actually unfortunate that I can understand them being an X-Men versus Street Fighter, but by the time you get to Marvel vs. Capcom 2, we couldn't have updated those sprites. It just seems like we had access to Street Fighter 3. We could have had Street Fighter 3 spec sprites for like every character. It just would have been amazing. Instead, you're putting out a game in 2000 that has like 1995 sprites. Oh, I can't recall if we get to see Balrog fight. See, Sagat was the boss in the original Street Fighter. There wasn't, you're an operative of Shadowloo. Maybe that kind of gets retconned in, or he then, as kind of shown here now, joins Shadowloo after defeat. Is Sagat on the upcoming roster for Street Fighter 6? Is he going to be added? I think. Let's see, Elena, the girl that admires Ryu, Bison's here. Maybe it's Sagat. They're in a bit of a conundrum here where could you add Dan and get people to spend the money for Dan? Like now all you can do when it comes to adding characters is add banger characters from the past that people like because you're making them pay money for it. They're not going to pay money for somebody's sight unseen new character at this stage in the game. Maybe when they pre-ordered the Ultimate and you ended up with some of the Viper type. Well, she's not C4. What is her name? The girl that's all snake-like, right? That's kind of got this cobra head. Wasn't she a new character? I don't think you're going to see a lot of new characters added to Street Fighter 6 at this point. Now, the core roster is not bad. I'll give them that, but it feels disappointing to add people when you have to pay for them. All right, so did everybody else take like the easy route to get to this cabin? That depends. Who wants? Oh, come on. That depends. Who wants? It's probably a yes when you're saying that, right? All right. I don't believe that this has the UK edgy F bombs in it because I didn't hear an F bomb from DJ. And coming up, there is an F bomb from Guile in the UK specific dub. which it purposely done to purposely up the rating certificate. Violent Kin, guys. The red eyes, the kind of darker palette. Man, I wish Ryu had a different voice. He just sounds kind of cringy teen almost. Actually, should have swapped voice actors with Ken. Oh man, we got the F-bomb here. Maybe I just didn't hear it when DJ was talking, but man, we got it here. So, and I don't think you have that in the Prime Video version with the US uncut version, essentially is what I guess we could call it. Though on this disc, they say the US uncut was still rather cut. Had all the violence, but didn't have the Chun-Li front. All right, very googly-eyed looking Balrog there. The way the narrative is set up, it feels like, all right, Ryu and Ken should fight each other so that Ryu can defeat Violent Ken. But maybe Guile actually deserves the fight against Bison. Headbutt v. Headbutt here with Balrog and Honda. Honda also had a name issue where I think it might have been like, obviously Honda is a car company. There was something else about it, like they wanted to go with Toyota or something. And they made some alteration to avoid trouble. All right, kind of looks like we killed Guile. I mean, he got blown into oblivion, right? And they're off. There is a mountain here, right? Did he not get blown off a mountain? Street Fighters are nothing if not resilient, man. Super crazy eyebrows on Ken. Heck, actually, the both of them. American version comes in with so much more rock. This is it's a moody synth. Is he seeing the bandana? Yep. Snap out of it. Nice flurry of punches right there. Oh, snap out of it, Ken. I don't honestly think you could put a machine up to somebody for a few hours and now you've changed their personality, right? And they'll do anything you tell them, right? Kind of works like the same way as an amnesia plot. A little bit of an overused contrivance. You can't beat me, Ryu. I have the higher ground. It's weird how Bison looks like he can kill everybody, but then they don't die. So the stakes are very weird. But it's not quite as bad as with Mortal Kombat, where it's like everybody dies at the end of each round. So then how would anybody ever get in the next game? Well, Ken's got his vision of alpha times, so he's gonna go get involved. Well, you might, with some of these voices, man, you might actually be better off Japanese. So many flashbacks. We get it. All right, Ken, go help. All right, now Ken has finally snapped out of it. I think I'm digging the Japanese music, guys. There is a way to play this with just the music, like no sound effects, no voice, just almost make it like a music video on this disc. That's the guy who fought me earlier. No, you don't want to call him Buffalo? And I don't think we see any more Sagat, do we? He just kind of like chills on the plane. Like, where is he? No, you'll take your orders. I'm going to fight them. Okay, we've got this scene now of Ken having to center himself. Okay, can you team up with Ryu already? Goodness. Here we go. Triumphant music playing, right? All right, let's fight them together. Because team fights are totally a thing in Street Fighter. Well, kind of, but not at the point when this was released. Is he going to do a head stomp? Now, Bison is a snazzy dresser, but is that maybe inspired by, a certain World War II group that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're not supposed to mention. Japanese kind of club pop going here. Oh, that nifty slide move, man. Boy, did I get people with that back in the day. That his hardest kick, I think it's actually listed as roundhouse while crouched. Oh, nice. We got him with the hurricane kicks. We got the dragon punch. You know, let's do some group fireball. Doesn't look like he could handle that one. Well, I'm gonna blow up his jet in the process. Chun-Li and Guile missed out. And of course, Balrog and E Honda, who fell rolling off a mountain. I guess E Honda got the better of that, has now carried Guile and Balrog up. Yeah, obviously with Bison out of the way, we can helicopter strike his base. Shame to ruin that sculpture, right? That statue. Guile, not so much a bandage on him. What, did Chun-Li die? I have to drive the wrong direction on the highway in New York City. Yeah. Yeah, forget whatever wrecks I caused doing this. I gotta go see Chun-Li. I'm Guile. I don't change clothes and I don't obey traffic laws. Now, I don't know why the plan here was to fake him out and be like, yeah, hey, we got to get up here quick. It's urgent. Oh, and in the process, let's try to convince him that Chun-Li died. See, she makes a little bit of the goofy anime faces, but it's very restrained compared to what you would get out of an anime series of the time. Ken has a few changes of wardrobe, but Ryu also sticking to that classic outfit through and through. Offering Ryu a ride. Do you know who this guy is? All right, now we're going to get a title sequence at the end, closing credits, but there is a post-credit sequence, so we kind of need to sit and watch that. you have an option on this 4K disc to see the ending without any credits, any titles on it. Is it a necessary thing to include on a disc? Not really, but it's kind of neat that it's there. Similar to Ryu's ending in Street Fighter 2, just wanders the land looking for the next challenge. Oh, here we go. There's a truck. Oh no, Bison's in the truck. What are you gonna do, Ryu? And look, he even had time to put a Shadowloo emblem on the truck instead of like Peterbilt or whatever. And that does it for Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, or you just call it Street Fighter 2, the movie. Actually, at the very end of the credits is a bit of an advertisement, just a quick card saying, hey, watch the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. Yeah, or don't, actually. Till next time, adios.